Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the On the Diamond and Into the Deep podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and welcome to episode 84 of the podcast. Today is Thursday, September 4th, and today we will be recapping the Mariners' month of August, where they stand as we head into the rest of September. The Mariners just went down to Florida to get swept by the Tampa Bay Rays in the minor league ballpark. But the Mariners still currently hold a wild card spot. The question is, how much longer will it be like that? So today we'll be discussing all things offense and pitching from the past month. It is also day one of the NFL season, so we do just have to mention it as it's fantasy football season, which I couldn't be more excited about myself. Tonight, the Cowboys and the Eagles facing off, which should be a fantastic game, and it should be a fantastic week. Seahawks got the Niners this week. Week 1 against the Niners should be a crapshoot, should be a lot of fun. I got the Hawks as always, of course. But I really do think this will be a very good game, and I think the Seahawks have a very good opportunity to set the standard for this season with a big win at home against the Niners. Hopefully you can get a good crowd, and let's go get the offense and the defense to show up, pound the rock, and all that jazz. And ironically, the Mariners are scuffling just as football season rolls around for what seems like a forever. It feels like a pastime at this point for the Seahawks to come into discussion right as nobody wants to talk or think about the Mariners. Even myself, it's a difficult thing to bring myself to do, to talk about the Mariners, because they have struggled so severely. But without further ado, as always, let's get into it. Okay, we're going to look at a few different things. First, I want to look at offensive ranks in August, pitching ranks in August. We're going to look at home, on the road. We're going to look at since August 12th. We're going to look at in the first, second, and third innings, especially for the pitching on that. And we're going to look at what they've done so far on this current road trip. So we will begin with what is probably the most positive thing we could start with. We're going to start with offensive ranks for the Seattle Mariners since the beginning of August at home, or during the month of August at home. The Mariners in August ranked 7th in WRC plus at home with 117. They ranked 24th in average at 222, 21st in on-base, 15th in slug, 16th in OPS. Right away, that tells the story of what this Mariners offense is. You are poor in terms of average and on-base percentage, and you're average in slugging, which is why you have struggled overall. The way that this Mariners baseball team is going to score runs is through home runs. Bringing back Geno seems to have sort of reignited the Mariners' offense of 2023, where it was heavy strikeout and heavy home run. And if you didn't score through home runs, you're not going to score. And after watching the first 4 months of the season after watching April, May, June, July. The offense didn't feel like it was home run or bust in the same way. Part of that was because you had guys hot at the right times. You had Randy hot at times, JP hot at times. You had Cole Young driving in runs, Dom Canzone driving in runs. You had guys sort of just picking up big hits here and there. And it felt like it was a different offense because they were able to do that. It was the first time really that they've been able to do that under this Jerry Dipoto, Scott Servais not anymore, but under the Jerry Dipoto regime. It was the first time you've scored runs not from the long ball, really. And continuing on with these offensive splits at home in August, you ranked 7th in strikeout. That's the 7th highest strikeout percentage, to be clear, at 23, almost 24%. You ranked 4th in walk, 3rd in home runs. You ranked 28th in doubles, 20th in hits, and 5th in runs. You were a top 5 offense in terms of runs, and almost all of those came from home runs. And I'm not just saying that came from extra base hits in general, because they were atrocious at hitting doubles at home. And that's kind of been the case for a long time. And it's interesting to look at the home runs and double splits, in my opinion, at home and on the road in August, because they tell different stories, and it tells why really this Mariners offense has struggled on the road in August. They've been better at home, and a lot of that is due to that first homestand after the All-Star break, where they were scoring runs and looking like a dominant offense. And if you want to go look at the road now, they were 22nd in WRC+, 5% below league average at 95. They were 20th in average, 22nd on base, 11th in slug, 22nd in OPS. They had the 2nd highest strikeout percentage, 25th in walk percentage. Yet here's the interesting thing. While they ranked actually higher than slug, their slug was lower. It was 422 at home, 400 on the road. But that slug came from a different place. Instead of the 28-13 home run versus double split, it became a 14-24 split, heavily in favor of the doubles. Instead of hitting home runs, their power came through doubles. And because they mostly score their runs through home runs, they weren't scoring runs at a clip even at all the same or similar. They ranked 26th in hits and 28th in runs on the road. That in of itself is not going to get it done when you're ranking in the bottom 3, just purely in terms of scoring runs. That's why you're not going to be able to win games. But then you put that in contrast with what the pitching did at home and on the road. That's where the story really tells itself. And I'm going to start on the road because I'm going to start negatively. We just started with the road, or ended, I guess, with the road splits for the offense. But if you want to just purely talk about the road, the Mariners, while they were below average and really bad at scoring runs on the road, they were even worse at preventing runs. They were 26th in ERA on the road. The teams around them were Colorado, Pittsburgh, Washington, the Angels. Colorado and Pittsburgh were better than the Mariners. They were 29th in opponent average, 25th in opponent on base, 29th in opponent slug. They didn't get strikeouts. They were 18th in Ks per 9. And while they were able to limit walks, as they were 7th in walks per 9, they gave up the long ball like they never really do. 26th in home runs per 9. They were 27th in whip, giving up base runners like nobody's business. 22nd in FIP. And 9th in XFIP. If you purely look at a few specific stats, the 3 stats I want to look at specifically would be ERA, whip, and home runs per 9. When you are ranking 26th, 27th, and 26th in those 3 stats, your pitching staff is not going to be able to prevent runs. And for a team that wants to be in the postseason, really needs to be in the postseason, that's not good enough. That's not good enough in any way. And it's causing you to drop significant games on the road. And it's not like you're just dropping series. You're getting swept by teams you shouldn't get swept by. And you're losing in ways you just don't want to lose. It's losing in ways that are not only losses, they are demoralizing losses. They are losses that kill momentum. Losses that instead shift momentum in the negative way. You really have reverse momentum right now. You have momentum going towards missing the postseason. And we'll talk about what happens if they miss the postseason, when that may happen. And maybe that's going to be next week when they're out of a postseason spot potentially. But hopefully not. Hopefully you can head into Atlanta this weekend and be better. Hopefully you can just have August as a wash and say, well, we were bad in August on the road, but that's not who we are. We're a better team than that. But what feels more likely is that this pressure that is sort of built after the trade deadline is getting to them. And we've talked about it before, sort of the pressure for this Mariners team. The players in this clubhouse have struggled immensely when they are under pressure to go succeed. To me, I look at last year. I look at 2023. Because after 2022, it was we should be making the postseason every single year. 2023, it felt like the pressure got to them. They started striking out a lot. I mean, they struck out a lot in 22, yes, but it felt like they were pressing, and it feels that way again. It feels back like 2023. Well, earlier in the season, it felt more like 2022. And I talked prior to the trade deadline about how the Mariners had a lot of holes that they really needed to get filled. One of those was the bullpen, and the bullpen's been a significant problem, and I'm not going to talk about this on this episode, but I do want to mention that. And not because I was right about it or anything like that, but because I mentioned prior to the trade deadline, if you want to go listen back to those episodes, I mentioned and said, I think pretty clearly, that I don't think this team is good enough. And yes, right now that take looks great. It looks great. But the Mariners made moves. They maybe didn't give up quote-unquote significant prospect capital, but you gave up capital to go get guys. You started spending more money. And if John Stanton's going to look at the end of the season and say, well, I gave you guys more money to go spend and acquire guys, but it didn't help. And part of that's because $30 million of your budget is going to Mitch Haniger and Mitch Garver. And $30 million, well, yeah, that's a lot of money to us. In the overall scheme of a baseball team, that's not a whole lot. But in terms of the Mariners, that's what, a fifth of their budget? So there's problems, inherent problems for this team. And it's not going to get better if you go and miss the postseason. And none of us want to see that. That's not something anyone yearns to see, wants to see, whatever. That's something none of us want to see. And we'll have this discussion more in depth if we have to. But I'll tell you right now that if Dan Wilson is back next year, even if you go and make a postseason run, to me, that's an unserious team. Like, obviously, I don't know what he does in the clubhouse. But his game management skills are piss poor. They're piss poor. And for a team that is on the edge of making the postseason year in, year out, they're 2, 3 or less games from making the postseason every year, it feels like right now. Those managerial decisions, they make a difference. It makes a difference if Dan Wilson can't manage his bullpen properly and you lose a game because of that. That makes a difference. And it's not just going to be one game potentially you lose because of that. Think about the course of the season, how many times we've talked about it. It's been 3, 4 times. Maybe even more than that, where it's been, yeah, they should have won this game, and part of that comes down to Dan Wilson. If you were 3 or 4 games better right now, you're in first place in the American League West. That's the difference that this makes. It's not even just can you get into the postseason, it's where you are ranked in the postseason. It's can you get home games. And we're thinking ahead of ourselves because at this point we can't even make the postseason as the Seattle Mariners. But to me, Dan Wilson coming back next year would be pitiful. It'd be shameful, truly. As we shift a little bit more positively, the Mariners were decent at home in August. They ranked 7th in ERA, 3rd in opponent average, 4th in opponent on base, 16th in opponent slugs. So they still did have a little bit of a home run issue. 4th in strikeouts per 9, 5th in walks per 9, 25th in home runs per 9. Again, those home runs are what's causing this pitching staff problems for the most part. But they still ranked 2nd in WHIP and 15th in FIP, 3rd in xFIP. So without giving up these home runs, this pitching staff is the pitching staff we've known of the past few years. At home, at least, at T-Mobile Park. But not only has this team struggled in general on the road, they've struggled severely in the first 3 innings. And that's something that can't happen because it means you're out of the game before you're even a third of the way in. In the first, second, and third innings on the road in August, the Mariners ranked 19th in ERA at an ERA of 5, 24th in opponent average at almost 300, 23rd in opponent on base at 350 almost, 22nd in opponent slug at 472, and 23rd in WHIP at 147. You were out of games before you even had a shot. And this team doesn't have the morale right now to go and come back from large deficits. Right now, this team doesn't look anywhere close to good enough. And if you just want to look at it since August 12th, zero part of their team has been good enough. They rank 19th in WRC plus below league average at 99, 22nd in OPS, 20th in select, 26th in on base, 25th in average, 8th highest strikeout percentage, 20th in walks, 23rd in runs. And then in terms of the pitching side, you're 27th in ERA, 14th in strikeouts per 9, 7th in walks per 9, 21st in home runs per 9, 28th in WHIP, 18th in FIP, 30th in batting average on balls in play, 7th in hard hit rate, 3rd in hits. And the Mariners pitching staff, I mentioned earlier, they gave up a lot of home runs, and that's part of the reason they're struggling. But they are also, especially since August 12th, giving up a lot of hits, and every ball that's in play feels like it's getting through. And part of that's an unlucky thing, and the baseball gods hate the Mariners. But you have to get more strikeouts if that's what's going to happen, and this pitching staff doesn't have the ability to do that. And that's not just the starters, that's the bullpen too. Munoz hasn't gotten the strikeouts as he did at the start of the season. Brash is not getting strikeouts like he did prior to his injury. So all around, it's just not good enough from the pitching staff and the lineup. And August 12th is the date that tells that story. That's when the fade really started happening. After a great homestand and winning Game 1 in Baltimore, that's when it started to fall. That's when things got catastrophic real quick. And this current road trip, just as bad. 25th in ERA, 23rd in opponent average, 15th in on base, 19th in opponent slug, 16th in WHIP, 16th in FIP, 24th in BABIP. And your offense, 2% above league average at 102 WRC plus, which ranks 17th during that stretch, and 24th in runs during that stretch. So you're giving up runs at a heavy clip and scoring runs at a very minimal clip. And that's not going to win you baseball games, and that's not good enough. Mariners begin a 3-game set in Atlanta starting tomorrow, Friday night. Hopefully they can pick up some games there and begin to climb back out of this hole that they're beginning to build themselves. As for me, that's all for now. This has been episode 84 of the On the Diamond and Into the Deep podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Follow me on socials at Diamond and Deep on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of that jazz. As always, go Mariners, go Hawks, and peace.